When was the church built? Were you there before the church was built?
Well, the church, that's why I wanted a map, I got a map of Clear Lake, It's all the details are in there. Anyway, the church was there way down at the other end. It's past the grave. When you go to the graveyard, it's still on your right hand side if you go up. About 800 yards off that trail on your right hand side. And it was back in a bush, right at the edge of the bush. That was the old church. And that burnt in 1948. 48 it burned. And after that, in the meantime, the Hudson Bay Company had a piece of land where the church is today. Okay? The Revillian Brothers, the company that were competing with Hudson Bay was called Revillian Brothers in history. Okay?
Okay.
They had their store. I'd say about that trail you go up about 300 yards, just when you hit the bush, the thick bush, or 300 yards on that side too. That's where Revillian Outpost was. But when they sold out to the Hudson Bay moved from the original spot where the church is and moved over there. So the Hudson Bay claim was open.
Okay.
Yeah.
The land there.
Yeah, okay. So somehow the church got a hold of that. And that's where they built that church.
The one that's there now.
That's there now, yeah. Well, you're not there anymore. But
Yeah.
The remnants of it, okay? So from there, the Hudson Bay stayed with us till about 1970 some, I don't recall it. When the people moved here in 65, the Hudson Bay came along, I'd say about 2 years after or 3 years after, and rebuilt over there. They have over there where that post office is. Down just by it there. That's where they had a trailer, okay. And Leon Morris was their manager, okay. Leon was dead. And that's the last of the Hudson Bay.
Internal Lake.
Huh?
Internal Lake?
Internal Lake, yeah.
And when did that end?
About 1970s. I got it, like I said, I got it on my map.
And then it moved to Buffalo.
Yeah. There wasn't enough bear business to carry on an outpost, so they had to move.
When the Hudson's Bay Company, they had the trailer here, how many families would you say were here in Turner Lake by then?
By then, most of Clear Lake was here.
So about how many people would you figure what the population was?
Oh, here there was only 9. Let's see. There was Andre, there was Gilbert, Jonas Mungra, Denegan, Jean-Marie Mungra, and Tubak, Makisis, Toby, Sucham. There was only about nine families here.
9 families.
Yeah.
On the one bottom row right here, right?
Right here, yeah. From there where Virginia is staying, back to the little bay here.
Okay, before we get into Turner Lake, back to Clear Lake, when it all started, let's say, I don't know when it started or where to go to start from here. Like, I want to know what kind of people lived there. There was Denny's, there was Crees. Were there white men living there? before
The
the
fur
Hudson's
trade,
Bay.
during the fur trade,
But yeah.
there was, back in 1930s, you look at the history. People don't tell you the history. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
In 1930s, Saskatchewan, after it became a province, there was a depression.
Mm-hmm.
Down in the south, you couldn't grow nothing. It was just dry, okay? And people were starving over there. And you had soup kitchens in Regina, Saskatoon, and Prince Albert. There was and they couldn't plant anything. They couldn't grow anything. So people had to move. And these guys in Big River, that's where the train used to, what do you call it?
The railroad.
The railroad, that's where it come to.
Mm-hmm.
And from there made it turn all the way to across the Middle Lake and around. Anyway, the railhead. So people moved by the thousand north from south. And because they heard up in the north there's a lot of animals and you can plant anything over here. You can build a house, you can trap, you can fish. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So all kind of plentiful abundance of food. So when they moved over here, they call it the Hungry 30s. You'll hear that in the future. Hungry 30s. And all these people that came here weren't knowledgeable of how people lived over here. So they had to commute with the Dene people who were here before them. And they became friends with them and they shared ideas and stories together. And they lived off and survived on that. And there was people up in Cree Lake. In Cree Lake, that's where you got these names here. Nyberg Lake, there was two brothers that lived there. And then there was Ashholm Lake. All these lakes that are named over here, that's where these people, these white men came. It's like, for instance, where Ernest has got his cabin here towards Frobisher.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest's cabin is over here in that little narrows. But you go back that way, towards south, around the point there on the same island, in the little bay there, there's a guy that had a cabin there. His name was Pete Simon. He used to...
Was he a white man? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he used to work later on he worked for the Hudson Bay Company. He was a manager. Then in Charlie's Narrows here, there was a Hudson Bay outpost. And the guy that moved later on and the fur prices went down and the industry went down, he moved back to Buffalo. And then Revillian Brothers had an out camp on Wascamia on the west shore, past Amy's cabin on the west shore. That's where they had their cabin. And all the people were all over the place. In Keeney's Narrows there, where Duldu's got his cabin, you go around there, you go to Oostliskade. Right where that little narrow place is, you go like this. The guy had a house up there. He was a war veteran, and he lost his arm, so he had to build a cabin there.
All by himself, he built a cabin?
Yeah.
With one arm?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there was no welfare, you had to survive. Any old way you had to survive.
And he had a log cabin?
Yeah, my dad used to claim he had a nice cabin, and I could see that place. You can still probably find it, where he had a cast iron oven that he brought up all the way from Big River.
Wow.
Yeah.
Walking?
Well, canoeing.
From the train though?
Yeah.
Like he caught a train to Middle Lake?
Uh-huh.
And
He got it through the railroad, and you take off all the parts
Mhm.
and you put it in a canoe like that and up north.
Wow, hey?
Yeah. All the way to Cree Lake. In Cree Lake and where the old trappers' cabins are,
Mhm.
you'll find cast iron stoves.
How long do you think that's from here, like in kilometers about?
What?
Cree Lake.
Cree Lake
From
would
Turner
be
Lake.
about 180 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy.
So they went up, some traveled through here, Wascamia to Clearwater, and then north. Some traveled where you call Tiscala, that towards the end of the lake, that creek.
Yeah.
We moved up there, packed their stuff. And some traveled Spear Creek. And some traveled Norton River.
Way up north that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then a lot of them traveled through the Majatic River to go to Cree Lake.
Mhm.
And there were stories about them. They wrote stories. Like there was two brothers from Nipawin that were up in Cree Lake, Kerr's brothers. And the Kerr's brothers, well, they were greenhorns, okay? They had a trap line up in Big River, north of Big River, called Rat Creek. And they didn't kill enough fur, but he heard about Cree Lake, the abundance of fur over there.
Mhm.
The guys were bringing their fur down in the springtime by the bundles,
Mhm.
So they heard about it, and so they moved up there.
And this is still during the.
Huh?
This is still during the 30s.
Yeah.
Okay, the Great Depression.
So after the Depression was over, things started coming back to normal in southern Saskatchewan. These people were well established already,
Mhm.
and lots of them they moved back to their farms over there that they left there, and lots of them stayed too. That's why you have these Petersons, the short cheese, the Hansons, the Morans.
So they're all a result of the Hungry 30s.
Huh?
They're all a result of the Hungry 30s. They come from south that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Okay.
So and the McCollums, all these guys from Buffalo.
Mhm.
That's all from through that.
So Buffalo wasn't even it was a thing. It wasn't a place yet.
It wasn't even a place.
No, it's just bush everywhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the only place that you had the Hudson Bay store was a little store about they're about the size of this house, this kitchen. Okay, that is a store. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, there was one here located right by where Norman is staying,
Mhm.
just above there, and that was the Hudson Bay Company, and there was one there where Eugene is staying, Revillian Brothers,
Mhm.
So that's the way people survived through the hungry 30s. But here there was no hunger.
Mhm.
Up in this area there was never hunger. And the people later on, uranium was, they went into commercial fishing, and then later on there was uranium found up north in Uranium City, Beaver Lodge. So everything was flown in by airplane, and there was the Clear Lake was a station where for supplies,
Mhm.
gas, everything.
Clear Lake is. So this is where it starts then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Clear Lake, the airplanes would bring hauling their all the gas, and there was a big dock.
Mhm.
You don't see it no more. But just past the church there, you go along the shore to Alec Campbell's place,
Mhm.
and there used to be a big dock about from here to that building over there. And there were barrels and barrels and barrels of gas. And they'd haul and they'd ship.
And nobody lived there yet?
Yeah, there were people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was people. There were little people there. Never mind. Anyway, so after that, After everything was transported to New City,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was established, and then the outpost died down. There was no more. Not as many airplanes as there used to be. But way even before that, Clear Lake was just a channel before the reserve.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a channel at the mouth of that river. That's it. But in 1906, after the treaties were signed,
Mm-hmm.
it became what you call it, an important place, because all the rivers flowed from all over the place, and it flowed into Churchill into what you call the main Churchill River over there.
Mm-hmm.
So Clear Lake was just a place where you could use paddle and hunt, and that was it. Just go through. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a major route. Okay. Till 1906, when the treaties were signed, they weren't even signed in Clear Lake. They were signed in Al Cross. Okay. But then there started to be talk about settlement, about a reserve. So they had to choose where they wanted the reserve, and Clear Lake was chosen.
Because it was a main routeway.
Yeah, it was a major route, okay. And then Buffalo River was one of our piece of land, because there was a meadow there that they could raise horses and cattle. That was their intention. And timber. And here, Turner Lake, there was it was just used for what you call it, a livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
That would be it. Commercial fishing too, eh? And that's the way. In 1927, the reserve was surveyed here. 1927, Clear Lake was surveyed in 1923. That's the only time that a reserve was formed.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of the way the politics work, the government indicated to them. They asked if it's gonna affect their hunting, fishing, trapping. And the government said no, it won't affect. This reserve that you have, you can either go live there, or you can live as freely as you want to, like before.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went by, everybody was telling bullshit stories to one another, so they believed that. You have to be in a reserve.
So then everybody started moving into the reserves then?
Yeah.
And so that's how people moved into Clear Lake?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was all based on bullshit then? You
Yeah.
could have went and lived your own life out in the bush or
Yeah.
whatever, but...
Yeah. So, still at the time, people were living
Mm-hmm.
out there in the sticks. Like I got cabins all on a map, who it belonged to, and numbered, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I got it all on the map. And there was cabins all over from here to Cree Lake where people.
Mm-hmm.
What the government wanted when that uranium was found in Uranium City,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted, their plan was, you were a problem because you were out there, right on the money.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to move you out of there. So their plan was, get them out of the bush. Put them in a centralized area. And that's what the program was in 1967. Decentralization program by Indian Affairs. Everybody came out of the sticks. And they built them houses, power, stuff like that, TV, everything. So everybody moved out of there. Once they moved in the community, they were controlled.
And they're in Clear Lake right now.
Till right now, yeah.
Okay.
So now today, people are starting to find out, hey, that was a big mistake. We should have stayed where we stayed.
Mhm.
But too late.
Mhm.
People don't believe one another.
Yeah.
So if you were out there yet, whatever the claim was, the corporation that wanted to survey that land, and you had a cabin there, you would have profited from there too.
Mhm.
And this is the things that I've been telling people ever since I was in the chief.
Mhm.
Me, I was just a hard-working guy and never cared about anybody else. And me personally, I moved out from Clear Lake because it was harder and harder to get even wood.
Mhm.
As it was getting depleted in. Too
And
many.
it was just like Clear Lake is just an island. Like the where the people lived, it was just an island, right? A chunk of land where the people lived.
Yeah, not an island, mainland, but Clear Lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I want to know is why, how did the church get built? Why was it built? I know before the white men came, we had
Okay, before the white
our
men
own
came.
laws, yeah.
Okay.
And our, okay,
Before
what were the laws before?
Before the white man came, before I died, this story comes from the older people that has been carried on from one generation to the other. There's an old lady, Lambert, Uncle Lambert, went to yellow, what do you call it, Churchalke, Snowdrift. He went over there, and when he came back, he told me a story. You keep this, and you pass it on to your grandchildren. That old lady was 93 years old, and that story was carried on about the Denny people for as long as time immemorial. Many years ago, the Denny people were one powerful nation. And it was all from here, all the way to northern Manitoba and Ontario, and all the way to Alaska and Siberia. So there's still some Denny people in Siberia, northern Siberia, okay? So the way they used to operate in those days is they used to come together and find a gathering place where they have their ceremonies like the Cree people do nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
They had their own pipes, sacred pipes, they had their own dances and their own traditional and cultural aspect of life.
Mm-hmm.
So they came together, and records were not written but were kept. How many people passed away that year, and how many were born, and how many were living together, and who's living this and that. And they had names.
Mm-hmm.
Not Paul or Mary, but the way you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, it's because the way they were born, that's the way the name was given, and that was it. Like your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Bilo. Okay. If there was no such thing as English name, it would have been called Bilo for the rest of her life. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there was one big boss for the West tribe on the northwest side. There was another one for the eastern tribe. All the tribes from the east. From the east, the guy's name was Matanabi. You'll find that in that project where Meadow Lake started the sawmill,
Mm-hmm.
the history of the sawmill, North Sass. You'll find the guy right there, Matanabi.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the boss of all the tribes. And this guy, Ekecho, which means Bigfoot, was the boss of all the tribes in the Northwest. From years to years, they shift for celebration and gifts and stuff like that. So in the meantime, the white man landed on the east shore, and he saw this land, rich in everything. And so they built, they started a settlement on the mouth of St. Lawrence. And that's the first name for that community was Mount Royal, which is Montreal today. So the timber was abundant, so they built log houses with it, and they brought their cattle and their farming implements and stuff like that, blacksmiths and carpenters from overseas, and they built their gardens. And the Indians were bugging them. They were killing their cattle, and they were stealing their produce, garden stuff. So they had to do something. So they built a fort. Now they kept the Indians out. No more stealing from them or killing them. But still, the Indians were always after them because it was their land.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what the white men viewed it. They were savages.
Mm-hmm.
The first given name is a savage, okay? And yet they had to do something. They were not going back across the lake because over there was garbage, junk, and here was rich, and here it can prosper for them. So deals were made, meetings were set up between Spain, France, and England. And which organization, which denomination ever comes here into Canada and Christianize these pagans that live there, well, they'll get free land. They'll get free church. They're free from taxes.
Whoever got rid of the Indians.
Huh?
Whoever got rid of the Indians?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're promised all this royalty.
It's all schemed. Okay. So the church, they volunteered to come here to make that sacrifice. But before even that, in Italy, there's a nation within a nation. Italy itself is a nation. It's a country. But where the Pope sits, the Vatican Church has its own country within Italy. Okay, within his own nation within Italy, till today. So it was a good idea for the Pope too. So he could Christianize all these people, and they would get stronger in Christianity. And that's us, okay? So you landed, and you start moving. You ever seen a story about Black Robe?
No.
No show? Okay. Started moving. Frenchmen and the English were at war over the fur trade. And they started moving west. The explorers started moving west. And because Matanabe was on the east, you looked after the tribes in the east, that's who the priest met first. So he saw what's going on, and these guys are not baptized, they got no Christianity or anything over. So he told them, guys, he said, you have 4 wives, he said. You're not supposed to have 4 wives, you have to only 1 wife. And if you don't do that, you're going to go to hell for sure. And your people got no names at all, he said. Those 2 will go to hell. So he convinced him, so they traded their religion for the Catholic religion.
So then that's where before that it was the religion of the Creator, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And then that's how they became Catholic, and before even residential schools. Then.
Way before. Okay. This thing happened over the years. Okay, I'll get back to the residential school and all the things after. So, and people, there were fortune tellers way in advance before the white men ever landed. And the old lady, the fortune tellers, had already predicted the future today before even the white man set his first school. And everything that has happened in the past, and it's already been foretold that it would happen. And today, you come to the place where people used to say, in the future, there'll be only one language only.
And there is only one language.
And what do you see today?
English.
English, yeah. You will never go back to that Denny language that I had. Never. And they also said there will be nothing that crawls on the ground.
So then there's...
Your children are going to face starvation. You might not eat, you might not think of that frog hopping around as your food, but you will fight for that frog so you can eat. That is the vision of the grandfathers. And you see today. Look at our animals. If welfare was cut off today, and we all had to go hunting, you think we'd survive?
No.
There's not enough for the whole world to survive. So, we're going to see our children. I might not see it, but you're going to see it, or your children are going to see it. You're going to sit there and just watch your child starve. And you'll be so helpless. And that's the fortune teller. That's the way he dreamed about these things.
These are natives?
Yeah.
Native fortune tellers? Okay.
So anyway, this guy here, like he had their own religion. Like I said, the guy had 4 wives. Okay. They had their own sacred pipes and culture, traditions and customs and stuff like that. So he believed the priests, but there was a time when they had to gather together again. The Dene people is not only one tribe. You talk about the Apaches, you talk about the Navajo, you talk about the Dene, you talk about Dog Rib. They're all Dene. That's the big tribe. So he come back together, and his friend from the west, the white man didn't get reach him yet. He saw his partner. He only had 1 wife. Last time he come there, he had 4. And he said, "Oh, the people's name are different. There's John, there's Paul." Anyway, he knew. He knew that. So ceremony started there. Different tribes, Apaches, their sacred pipes. They all had their sacred pipes and worship. When they were finished their ceremony, he asked his partner, he said, just to be out of curiosity, "What happened?" He said, "Last time you came here, You had 4 wives, he said.
Mhm.
Now you come back, you only have 1. And your relatives there, their names are all different, he said. What went wrong? Well, he told him what happened. And he said, many years ago, the fortune teller had spoken, he said. Now today, it's finally out in the open now. You just traded your culture, your language, your practices for another religion, he said.
Mhm.
Now, today, he said, the Dene nation is broken.
Mhm. So it all started from this guy. What was his name? Oh,
Akecho.
Akecho.
So,
I'm pretty sure I read about Akecho, yeah?
huh?
I'm pretty sure I read about him. He
Yeah.
sounds familiar now.
Yeah. So, he broke the pipe. The sacred pipe from the Dene nation. He broke the pipe. He gave half to his partner, and he took the half.
And this
And
is
he-
the eastern and the southern
Yeah.
guy.
So he said, as long as these pipes are separated, the Dene nation will never be a powerful nation forever and ever.
Wow, eh?
So from there, he scattered.
Mhm.
He went back. The Navajo took the foothills of the mountain, went south. The
Towards
Apache,
BC that way.
the Apache, and the Cherokee, all those guys that were from over there,
Mhm.
he went back. And these guys, he spread out. And the Sarsi settled just west of Calgary, that Denny too.
Okay.
Yeah. So no more of people, the Denny people,
No more
ever
Dene nation.
coming back to congregate.
Mhm.
Yep.
Those pipes are long gone, so
Yeah.
it's never gonna be again.
Never be. So all these things that has been from time immemorial, even about the Denny, that's about the nation, the breaking up of the nation. Okay, that's an important part of our history.
Mhm.
As time went by, more people came, explorers, and the Cree people, because they were the first guys that the white men met, the Iroquois, the Cheyenne, down in the Mohawk and those guys in the east, were already better organized than we were, because the white man was taking over their land,
Mhm.
little by little. And eventually the Cree people, well, they were the ones that got the guns before the Dene people. The Dene people were still here.
Mhm.
So all they did, Churchill at the mouth of the river, there was what do you call it, Fort Churchill, he used to call it. And that's where the ships used to come in. And that's where the furs were brought all the way down from La Loche through the Churchill River, way back over there, transported over there, and bring freight brought up that river. So the Cree people, because they had guns, they started killing off the people, the Dene people, for their fur.
Holy.
Yeah. So when they cleaned out a village,
Mhm.
well, you just took their fur and went to Fort Churchill and he sold her fur. And the Hudson Bay Company figured, hey, these are good trappers, not knowing what the story is.
Mm-hmm.
But this one guy here, a Cree person, stole a Denny woman and took her back over there. And when he got there, they sold her. They went to the store, and that woman was curious, eh? She wanted to find what's going on, so she snuck up on them, eh? Snuck up on them, and she walked in where they're selling the fur, eh? Piles and piles of fur, and manager Hudson Bay manager noticed she was different, eh? So right away the Cree people were gonna grab that woman. You're not allowed in here, you know.
So they didn't even know there was any people here.
Yeah, you didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hudson Bay manager told him, leave him alone, leave her alone. She's different. So he invited her, and that woman told the story of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So
That they were killing the
yeah,
Indians
he
and stuff.
quit dealing with the Cree people,
Mm-hmm.
and he took this woman and some other adventurers, and he moved. He went into Denny territory,
Mm-hmm.
and when he got to Denny territory, that woman said, "You guys stay here. If they see you coming," he said, "you'll scatter."
Mm-hmm.
Because there were so many killings, eh? Me, I'll go, he said. So she went. She went to the camp, and when they saw her, they knew who she was. They was kind of scared of her, eh? Figured there was a ghost, eh? Because last time they seen him was about 10 years ago, eh?
Mm-hmm.
They seen her, and he said, don't run away, don't run away. Si usted, huh? Then he scanned the CCTV. So he stopped. And he was still leery and got to the camp and ate and talked to them in Denny, and told them what's happened, what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So then he said, these people want to meet you, he said. They want to trade with you. For those things that Cree people kill you with. And I brought him, he said, but you have to get used to it, he said. If you're afraid, well, maybe they'll come back some other time. So these guys they needed axes and knives and stuff like that. They said, okay, come on. And they walked in camp. The first time
Mm-hmm.
they met fur trader.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from there on, they dealt directly with the Denny. And the Cree people, they just...
So that's why there was like a hate between the Denny
Yes,
and the Cree.
yes.
Okay.
And still the hate till today,
Mhm.
okay? And it'll never be a friendship between the Denny and the Cree as long as time.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all the atrocities that they've done. And it's after that, well, people start, like I said, the West was taken over. And the way they take land away from you is, okay, they move west. This explorer goes over this way, finds a nice piece of land for farming and stuff like that. So they survey, eh? They survey. They build on there. Which, even though it was the Indians' hunting ground,
Mm-hmm.
push them out of there, eh? Push them out of there. Keep pushing them out of there. Keep pushing. Till everything. So there was people that fought back, but the resistance was not that great. If they had fought back as a unit, they would have chased these guys out of here. But there was a lot of bullshitters too, and a lot of guys that were paid off, eh?
Yeah.
The same thing like today, the chiefs and councillors, okay, the leaders, mayors, they're all bullshitters too now, eh? That's
It was all greed, eh?
It
It
was
all
all-
goes back to greed.
all it was, yeah. And ever since that day to deal till today, it's still the same thing, the same thing. Now, we come back to today. Today, as my grandchildren, the only option that you have to survive on in the future for your children for a period of time only is through education. You can't find nothing else.
Mm-hmm. I believe that too.
There's nothing here.
There's nothing here, no. And that's why I'm fighting so hard to be educated.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't even, like you say, you talk about these people that are sitting on welfare. A lot of them graduated with a grade 12. They're still sitting here.
Yeah.
And they think the chief and council owe them something. They depend on them greatly. They do. And then, like,
No, the chief don't owe them nothing.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
But these people don't
Well-
because they don't know any better. They
Well-
never went out.
Yeah.
They've never educated
Yeah.
themselves as to
Yeah.
how hard it can be. in the
So
real world.
as you go along, it was the same way in my time.
Mhm.
Okay, there were some dumb ones and there were some smart ones. Okay,
Mhm.
and the smart ones prospered. Okay, and the dumb ones were always left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the way it is all the time.
Mhm.
Even today, it's still the same thing. Yeah. So you see, you can tell. As much as anybody likes to hate somebody, look at Eugene.
Mhm.
People don't associate with Eugene. But Eugene is smart in his own way.
Mhm.
All his children are going to school.
Yeah.
And he survived by not commuting with other people. Eh? He done what he was doing. Then you see Mary Moon,
Mhm.
same thing. You see the families the way they are. And the Moongrounds, you see them.
Mhm.
They're useless bastards. I like to say, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
they're my nephews
Mhm.
and nieces. But he got nothing up here.
Yeah.
And he'll always have nothing. There was one there, James Young. Might as well shoot the guy. Why waste money on him for welfare?
Mhm. That's what I said. Like, there is a post on social media about kicking him out of that place, and I told her, you know, like, it's out of respect. You know, he gets it free. He doesn't have to pay nothing.
Yeah.
Welfare pays for everything for him,
Yeah,
and he can't even appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
he's just take advantage
that's
of
how
it.
dumb he is,
Mhm.
yeah. So you see, nobody owes anybody anything.
Mhm.
You don't owe me nothing. I don't owe you nothing. But as a grandparent, I'll give you the guidance
Mhm.
to go that direction.
Yeah.
But those people, they never talk to one another, you know. It's always card games and wine and everything out of the ordinary, eh? And if they figure the chief owes them anything, it's not the chief's fault.
Mhm.
They only get a limited amount of money to survive on, just enough so that we can starve on reserve for the year. In March, he'll give us some more money again for next year,
Mhm.
and next year, and next year. Doesn't matter who the chief is. They're not going to go nowhere
Mhm.
unless you get some smart people up there and start thinking about a major economic plan that can fit Canada,
Mhm.
not fit only one band, fit Canada. It provides wealth for the province, provides wealth for the federal government, and it provides wealth for the native people. That kind of plan.
Mm-hmm.
Then things will work. But the way it is now, how can you fight somebody that feeds you?
Yeah.
That's the way it is today. John Paul has only got a limited amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Every year they'll be the same.
And people don't understand that.
Now, they'll never understand that.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to be miserable assholes. That's all they want to be. And I saw that many years ago through my work, seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it all, I said, no. The hell with this crap.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't even visit anymore. No use.
Yeah. It just all comes down to money.
Yeah.
Greed, everything. And there's so much of that in this town.
Yeah.
My God, it's so easy.
So it doesn't matter, how do you want to live? Is your next question. Because as you go along, it doesn't matter if you go to city, university and stuff like that, you're going to have to, there's so many thousands of people down there, you're going to want to whine and swerve your way up there,
Mm-hmm.
But my advice is don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about it. Just worry about your family, the ones that want to try to make it. That's the one you help.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that fall on the wayside and go to jail for robbing and killing and all that, just forget it. They'll never change.
Mm-hmm.
And just enjoy life.
Okay, but I have another question for you. And so
Okay.
I have put down some things here, like, so the government was like that. There, they didn't have. Did they have chief?
Who?
Chief in Clear Lake,
There was no word as chief.
and just they sat down.
The
and
government,
did ceremonies.
government put that.
Okay, so before.
Okay, the word they used for a Kechok and Watanabe,
Mm-hmm.
in Dani they call it Dananese.
And that was just like a leader, like
Yeah.
a boss or something.
Yeah. Dananese, yeah. But there was no such thing as chief nor council.
Mm-hmm.
The government put that on the files.
And then the Hudson's Bay Company made a store out in Clear Lake. And then that's when the Buffalo people started coming. Or the Buffalo people are already there.
In 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they were all together to create the Dene and the white people in Clear Lake.
Yeah.
And then what happened, like in this land, okay, did they have like one part for the Dene, one part for the Cree, one part for the white man, or were
They all had their
together
territory. They had their own territory.
on the Clear Lake?
On the continent.
Mm-hmm.
On the continent. Now, on the continent in Canada, the Blackfoot had its own territory.
Mm-hmm.
The Sarcee had their own territory. The Dene people had their own territory. The Cree, and they never bothered one another.
Okay.
They never tried to grab everything from one tribe.
So they just fought. They just trapped. They fished on their own
Yeah.
their own territory.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until the white man came
Yes.
and started.
They screwed up
Taking,
everything. Yeah. And then the half-breed came.
Mm-hmm.
The half-breeds came, and that's where everything started. Haywire.
Mm-hmm.
So then there was like Clear Lake. I remember Clear Lake. They had a reserve there, and they didn't allow no alcohol, and that was respected by the native, by the half-breed. They had lived on a point, an old shack in the channel over there. And of course, you started filtering through, and then they got people crazy, and they pushed lots of them aside, and they married, because years ago the terminology of marriage was, okay, But by the Denny people, this was sacred to them. If you wanted a wife, you had to be a good man in order to provide for your children and raise your children.
Mm-hmm.
If you're no good, you'll never get a wife. That's the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
so like, you had to be a good fisherman.
yeah, they broke that chain, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when they became like a husband and wife, was it just you just became a partner, like a husband and wife?
Yeah.
Before like a ceremony. Did they have a ceremony or like a wedding?
No.
Just like what kind of a pipe or a dance and stuff like that?
That's all. Just okay. There were 4. You chose as many as you wanted to. If you're a good man,
Mm-hmm.
you had to have one to make the moose hide, one to make dry meat, one to go fishing, one to get wood, be able to do all these things. So these 4 wives that you had, they all shared together to work. They worked together to raise a family. And there was no such thing as jealousy amongst the Denny people many years ago. There's no such thing as that.
And when in Clear Lake, well, I want to know like what kind of dance did they have?
There was no such thing as far as I know, me when I came out of school, I heard about dances in Buffalo Narrows, but that's about all I heard till later on. We had those square dance.
Mm-hmm.
A square dance, but we had to sneak and hide to dance because it was against the Catholic religion.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were caught, if you went to the dance and the priest knew about that, well, they held power over the people.
Mm-hmm.
If you were caught, you wouldn't go to confession for a whole year, nor communion.
So like even like as a community, you couldn't dance?
No. That is all taken away from them.
And when did you go to residential school? How old were you?
I was only 5 years old.
So you remember like before they started taking children away? They were taking children away before you even?
No, they were taking children already in 1932.
So they didn't like have ceremonies and stuff like. When you got back from residential school, how old are you?
I was 14 years old.
14, and then that was it for school.
Huh?
And you didn't go back to school?
I went back to Middle Lake after in the 60s.
So when you were 14, you went back to Clear Lake. They had dances then?
They had, like I said, they had once in a blue moon, maybe Christmas, Easter. That is it.
And they had a hall to have them?
No hall.
Just outside?
They had a little house,
Mm-hmm.
a cabin, no bigger than the size of this living room and the kitchen put together.
Did you dance there?
No, I didn't dance. I wasn't allowed to go to dance. I wasn't allowed to see those kind of things because you were a child.
So you had to be an adult then to dance.
Yeah.
And like when you went back to Clear Lake, what did you do? What did you do for fun as a 14-year-old?
Well, there was no such thing as fun. Okay, if you're talking about playing, there was very skimpy.
Mm-hmm.
All you did was, there was nothing. It was survival.
So just work. You just worked.
Just worked. And the only place you found that you were at peace with yourself is in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody to bug you, nobody call you down and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You just done your trap, you hunted, you fished. That was it. And you prayed your own way. Yeah, your own way.
And what kind of foods were there? Just wild meat?
Just wild meat, yeah.
And when the Hudson's Bay had a store there, they sold like flour and stuff?
Yeah, they just sold the basics then. Flour, sugar, tea, lard, no milk.
You never had milk?
No milk. And maybe canned milk, but that was for the babies, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And most of the people were breastfeeding,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't sell too many of that. and salt and shells and stuff like that, eh?
Mm-hmm. Just stuff you need to live on then.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's
And
all.
then they sold there.
Yeah.
And then when did they start moving? Why did they start moving?
Who?
The people to Turner Lake.
Because the industry, the fur was
Oh yeah, because it was dying
depleted,
down
eh?
later.
You were getting depleted, eh? You were getting to be less and less and less, eh? Even the wood in Clear Lake, you had to go about 2 miles up there to go and bring one load of wood, eh? One dog team load of wood.
And that's how it is getting around Turner Lake now. Hey, you have to go a long way
Yeah.
to get wood.
Uh-huh. It's getting to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Here, when I moved here, there was only 9 houses here in 1959. When I moved here because of that, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And heck, my trap line was started from here to the church. In between here, you know, there was lynx, there was squirrels, there was chicken.
So in Clear Lake, they talk Dene,
Yeah.
they talk Cree,
Uh-huh.
and they talked English.
Yeah.
And like there was there a time it started becoming all English in Turner Lake and not
Yeah.
Clear Lake.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So once the school started bringing all the kids back and whatever, they started English coming out more and more.
There was Denny here, my children. When we were here,
Mm-hmm.
my children's age group were Denny. After my children's, my grandchildren, no. But there was a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you said the white man took control of everything,
Mm-hmm.
there was a purpose and a reason for that. You go to your studies and you'll find out what makes a country. Language, religion, land, and what is it? Forgot. There was 4 of them anyway. So we lost our livelihood. No more. We lost our religion. No more. And the other one we lost too. Why, I forget. Our traditions,
Mm-hmm.
our culture,
Mm-hmm.
we lost. Now, we lost our language. So are you a nation? You're not.
No.
That's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They got you where they wanted. They wanted all these times. And that started happening in 1969. 69 white paper, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started happening. Then your membership. In 1985. And then, after 1985, people don't even know who they are.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm Bill C. I'm treaty.
I don't know what I am.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's this, I read this book in my indigenous class, and he claimed to be a quarter of a Métis man. And in his book, it's a fictional book, but he did his research about natives that fought in the World War and residential schools and people living in the sticks still. And in this book, like, it taught me things about my tradition that I didn't know. A full-blown native. I'm full-blown native. I'm half Dene, I'm half Cree, you know. And then there's this whole controversy going around this author of this book. Why does he get to write about our culture when he's a white man, you know? We're sick of white men making money off of our culture and our tradition and our knowledge or whatever. And I thought, he is a white man, and the white man is a dominant culture, and we are sick of white people making money off of whatever, but he'll broaden he'll widen the audience, and he'll make it more out there, you know, what people been through, how the residential schools this woman in this book that he wrote about, she was a Witagu killer, And I never knew anything about the Witigo. I heard about it as a story as a young kid, but I never understood where it come from or anything about it. Just that it was a monster, was all. And so I argued and said, maybe it is good to teach this book, even if he's teaching our language, because he taught me more, and I'm more native than he is, but he taught me more than I ever did. Yeah. As long as he's giving credit to these people, and the white men will always be the dominant culture. So maybe it's good to have a partnership with them now, way later, because there's no way we're going back to what it was. So I stand with this author of this book to keep teaching, you know, because it's important to make a partnership.
Yeah, take a look at me. On paper, they put me as a treaty person. Mm-hmm. I'm not a treaty person. Treaty is a legislation. It's a law, okay? Mm-hmm. But that's the way they put it on the list, banned list. And when you look at it, the way I look at it, I say to myself, I'm Denny. Nobody can change me. I'm Denny. Mm-hmm. But when I look at my forefathers, I'm even ashamed to think that I'm Denny. My grandpa, Jack Sylvester, is an Englishman, come from an Englishman. My grandfather, old Marshall Morris, is a Frenchman. That's my grandfather's. Mm-hmm. So where's my Indian?
Yeah, but I guess it's in your knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you know.
Yeah.
You're Denny.
All I know is I'm Denny. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So okay, back to Clear Lake here. What type of economic systems they had, the type of living they did fishing. They sold fish in Clear Lake? Did they buy fish in Clear Lake?
Okay. Fishing didn't start till 1930s. Mm-hmm. Oh, about the middle part of the 30s, according to some old fellas. Okay. And the first fish company that ever came here was McGuinness Fish Company, and that was from Alberta. Mm-hmm. You see Cheecham there where you pass and going to Fort McMurray? Mm-hmm. That railroad track you cross, Cheecham. Yeah. That was the station there, the railhead, and all the horse teams, I don't know, lots of them. They made that road all the way to Bull's house on Big Buffalo. And on the shore there, along the shore there, they had a major camp over there. Mm-hmm. All the wagon train. Then from there they spread out. Some went to Alacross, Dipper Lake. Some of them went to Clear Lake, Frobisher Lake, and some all over like that. Mm-hmm. That's the way they set up the fish company. Yeah. And my grandfather, old Marshall Morris, Pierre Morris, his name, but he just gave a nickname, Marshall. He used to haul from McGuinness, from Bull's house, with a few teams of horses, and it may go around Buffalo, Clear Lake, Frobisher, and make his rounds, and go back to Bull's house. From Bull's house, they had another team that goes to Cheecham, and all the fish went on rail south.
Like when you say they make their rounds, like he made his round to Clear Lake and stuff, was he fishing or was he gathering fishermen to let them know that they're gonna buy fish?
Just collecting fish. Because years ago.
Oh, so he was pulling the fish and then taking it.
No, the fishermen were fishing. Mm-hmm. Okay, and all they did was take their fish and put it in the warehouse. Freeze them.
And then he'd come and grab them.
And just go there and load them up, count them, load them up on scale.
And so that's how he'd pay them there in cash?
They never used to pay money, according to the old folks. Mm-hmm. They used to give them groceries, whatever they wanted. So they didn't. The value of the money wasn't there. There's food and supplies according to how much fish you had.
So there was no like money even in Clear Lake.
But there was nothing.
Just trading.
Yeah, there was more trade than money. If you had 5 cents in your pocket, holy gee, well, you were rich.
And like it was a big deal to have 5 cents in your pocket, like. And what would you? That's what you'd buy your flour with, or was that traded?
Well,
what was it even to?
Okay, flour, well, you trap. Okay, you either trap or you commercial fish. They started using money later on in the 50s when I came out of school. They were using money. Okay, so straight cash, and you got 3 cents a pound for your whitefish, and no, 2 cents a pound for your jackfish, 3 cents a pound for your whitefish, and 7 cents for your pickerel.
So the pickerel was always the money.
Yeah, but you didn't catch a great amount, eh?
Is that why it was always worth more, because it's hard
Yeah,
to get? Okay.
So, and the limit was big. There was so much fish that you never took the limit out in one season. And
this is when it was all around.
Yeah. So the fish that my grandpa used to on his wagon train, they all go to that station in Big Buffalo, and they had camps from their wagon trains all the way to Cheatham, and along the way they had camps too. They had camps where there were stations, and over here, McGinnis had a big camp over here on the island. And nobody's ever tried to even walk that island. Across the lake here, that's Big Spruce Island, just when you go through to West Canyon, there's Big Spruce Island. On the south shore there, on the south end, you walk around the bush and you'll find where the cabins used to be, the barns where they used to be. It's all there. And nobody's ever even had time to go and see those places. And that was McGinnis. He was hauling with an airplane. He was hauling, and all the fishermen here that were here were brought from the south. And one of them was Pat Desjardins from Cold Lake, Ronnie's dad. And all white men. And they never hired the native people. If they did hire them, they would pay them with sugar, tea, tobacco, and stuff like that. That was it, no money. And one of them had a house here, Riders Island. He was one of McGinnis' fishermen, and he built a house on Riders Island here. That's why the Petersons are in Buffalo, Ryder Peterson. So they never took pickerel. All they took was whitefish.
Why?
Because those fish were no good. Pickerel and jackfish are no good. Okay, they were just like suckers years ago. Okay, so according to my cousin Lil Jean-Marie Mugra, Norman's dad, in the springtime when they finished fishing here, those piles of pickerel were the size of houses.
Wow, hey?
Hills and hills of just rotten. Yeah.
And now people are just going crazy for the pickerel.
So that's the way it was. He said. We had a lot of dog food, he said. Right.
So when did money in Clear Lake,
Money came in 1946. Money was around.
But it wasn't important.
It wasn't very visible. Okay. In 1946, when the fur blocks were created, and then the government had the traders had to have money to buy fur. Fur and trade mixed. Okay. So in 1946, that's when they started buying it was productive. There was lots of fur,
Mhm.
and the mink was $25 for one. Oh, that was lots of money those days for a buck, and $15 for a female. And lynx weren't bought. They weren't bought. And otter was bought, beaver, squirrel.
Mink.
No link. They didn't buy
Mink.
link. Huh?
Mink.
Mink, yeah. That was it. But they were only worth $15 for a big pelt,
Mhm.
and maybe $10 for and down, yeah. So then, whatever you had coming, well, you either took the cash or you left it in the store because you're going to use it later on anyway.
To buy
Yeah,
flour and
So
sugar.
they never went nowhere.
Mhm.
And that's all the reason they come
So
in.
it wasn't a great big thing then, hey, money?
Huh?
It wasn't a great big deal?
No, it wasn't a great big
No.
deal.
Not back in that day.
Yeah. And later on, when I started fishing, it was the same thing. I started fishing in the springtime. I started fishing Frobisher, Oscamu, and Turner.
Mhm.
And all my fish were hauled to Buffalo. I never seen my fish. You ever seen the fish boats? You never seen it, eh? Weights open up
Mhm.
after McGinnis closed off. Weights open up a fish plant right where what do you call it? Where just when you come around the corner, going to Snack Shack
Mhm.
down the lake there.
Okay, I think
Yeah,
I know where you
yeah.
mean.
So they had a big fish plant there,
Mhm.
but that burned down, And so they had another one in Cree Lake. So the people all moved to Cree Lake to fish for summer and come back in the fall,
Mhm.
But then later on they built that one over there. So we started fishing that. That was my time. And when I fished, I used to, that guy, that weight company, they'd take us anywhere. No charge, no nothing. If you want to go fish blackbirds, just load up your stuff in the airplane and you're gone. No charge.
Mhm.
As long as you produce. If you didn't produce, they don't help you. So everything was on debt, So, which was good. The guy was good for that because he didn't charge you fare or anything.
Mhm.
And you kept on like that. And whenever you made money, you ordered, you made a list. And next trip you bring your stuff, and that's the way
Your
it,
groceries.
the way it was. And here in Frobisher, you used to have two boats that used to travel Frobisher, and two boats going to Dillon. Big boats.
Like a ferry boat?
No, there was a big boat with a
A sail?
with a with a bin
Oh, okay.
and a motor, a cab, everything.
Mhm.
It was about 40 feet long, and I'd say about 16 feet wide and 8 feet high, and everything. You load up the gas and tie them up on the side, and you'd walk way on the side. And you never charge you anything. First camp, they start in the spring, Otter Island. All the people were being towed to Otter Island from canoe to canoe with a rope,
Mhm.
And when you got to Otter Island, you set up their camp. There's an ice house there already. And people take ice during the winter time.
Yeah.
And from there they get spread out. Some go to Centralia, some go to Nipawin Bay here and bring all their fish. And when they get a load, the radio, Buffalo, got a load. So they meet somewhere along the way.
Then they load up and
Yeah.
that person
Yeah.
will take it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, that's the way they used to do.
Lots of work back then.
Oh.
Lots of labor, like.
Oh,
Work.
but we were healthy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we were healthy.
And
Yeah.
like, what did they do for like medicine and like health, like delivering
Medicine,
babies?
you had your own. You'd never seen a doctor.
So you made your own medicine.
Yeah. All these were medicine.
So what would you do, like, if you had a toothache?
I would go and get that jack pine gum.
And you just stick it in your cavity or
Yeah,
whatever?
it's like jack pine gum that's just like molasses.
Mm-hmm.
Or beaver castor,
I don't know what that
beaver balls.
is.
It's a liquid in there.
Mm-hmm. You would put that in your mouth.
Oh yeah,
And
it's strong as hell, but
say if somebody broke their leg or something,
yeah, well, you just pull it back.
you just pull the muscle back
You
together?
just pull it back together and board and tie it on. That was it.
And how about a headache? Was there even headaches?
Headaches, well, that one, we use rat root.
Yeah. And who delivered babies?
Huh?
Delivered babies.
There was always a midwife. Annie Bagg was a midwife. Old Mary Dion was a midwife. Marie Cataract was a midwife. There was midwives.
And did they have ceremonies when a baby was born?
No ceremony. You're born to hell with it. You're
That's
born.
it. Nothing special.
No, nothing special. Nothing.
Like, so say if I read in a book somewhere, they give you this whole naming ceremony and everything.
Well, that's
all.
the Cree people.
Oh, okay.
The Cree, the Sioux, Soro, they never let go their tradition. But we actually.
So, like in Clear Lake, there was Cree people there, and if they had a baby, would they have a naming ceremony?
No. There was very little Cree.
Oh, okay.
Very Cree. Real Cree. There was half-breed Cree.
And what kind of housing was there? What kind of houses did they?
Houses, log houses.
They built their own.
And we built our own log houses, yeah.
And
We just go across the lake. When you go to Clear Lake, you see the 4 islands over there.
Mhm.
That's where we used to get our logs. And behind a point there in the bay, when you go to Buckwood, behind a point there.
so when you got logs, you have to bring them back only in the winter.
We had to tow them in the spring and summertime.
You'd float them in the water.
Yeah, you float them in the water. It's all labor.
Mhm.
That island, that 4 islands you see across there when you go to Clear Lake.
Mhm.
We used to go there with a little outboard motor, maybe 2.5.
Really slow.
And when we got there, there's a hill,
Mhm.
so we get our logs up there. And in the springtime is the best time because you just peel them off and you put log sticks like this down a hill, and you just get a rope on both sides, one guy on one side, and just kind of lift it and you slide right down to the lake.
Holy,
Yeah.
lots of work.
Yeah, big logs too.
Mhm.
And what is
And like for insulation and stuff, you'd use like
you
moss
use?
and stuff.
No, we used clay.
Clay, where would you get that from?
Well, clay right here. They used to get their clay right here. Just when you go, there used to be a hill. Remember?
Mhm.
They cut down that hill, Just when you hit the end, the muskeg there, on your right hand side.
Hey,
Clay. Where are you going?
I'll go with yours. Glenors.
Huh?
Let's give me another 20. I'm gonna go grab one. You're doing history? You're being interviewed?
Yeah. And
Thank you. You're not going anywhere,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Why?
It's really
So I
cold
can
out
have
there.
some
Maybe
extra.
you're better off to stay till early in the morning.
Yeah, I was gonna. Anyway, I'll go.
But it's late.
Yeah.
You're gonna go?
No, not today.
He's getting interviewed.
So anyway,
Don't go, Dad.
huh?
Don't go to the lodge.
I'm not going. How can I go? You guys got a truck.
Oh,
I'm not going to go walking. So, right on this site in the Muskeg, the Edison Muskeg, that's where we used to get our clay from in the fall time.
What's that? What clay?
Clay is, you'll notice it when you get there. It's grayish, okay?
Is that like, say, when you're digging a hole in the ground that...
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So when it gets like hard there...
Yeah.
Okay.
So you dig that up and you use dog team. You only put so much on a sleigh, on toboggan, and you haul it from there to here with a dog team.
So you have to go back and forth, back
Oh,
and forth.
back and forth.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
And then when you get here, you mix it. You make you put a log here and no leaks, eh? So it don't leak. You put sand or something around it, and you put your clay in there, sand, gravel, and grass, and you mix it real good, eh? And then between the cracks in the house, you chink it.
What would you use?
You use that kind of mitts.
An oven mitt?
Yeah, well, it doesn't oven mitts, eh? But you make a mitt like this.
All around the house.
All around the house, yeah.
So would you make that kind of mitt, or would your wife make that kind of mitt?
Yeah, they make them out of canvas. Yeah. And Clear Lake, you get down. Clear Lake was another place there. You'll never be able to find it. It's only us that we know where it is. Eh? But there too, we used a wheelbarrow. Eh? They used to make their own wheelbarrows years ago with wood. Eh? You made a wood out of wheel. Eh? The wheel out of wood.
Really?
Yeah. Nail boards together like this, and you make a round thing, and then they put a stick in between.
So they knew how to do that stuff even before the white men came in.
Yeah,
Like even with their axes and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. They knew all of that stuff.
Anyway, get down. Don't like you're up here.
And what kind of clothing? Just normal clothing, I guess. You make your own clothing.
Yeah,
Like
mostly hand-me-downs. Eh?
yeah.
Yeah, that's all it. It's from one family to the other. Eh? As long as it's nice and washed, and that's just it. Eh?
So there was like lots of. Where'd you get cloth from?
We got it from the Hudson Bay.
So
Hudson Bay sold a few fabrics. Eh? Yeah, because they used to use dresses. Eh? So they had to have. You were just in stock. Eh? Beads were in stock.
Was there any kind of music?
Huh?
Music?
I don't know about music.
Not even when you come back from school, was there music?
There's no such thing as music. Old Alec Campbell, the chief, he was one guy that had radio.
Yeah.
He had a radio, but he wouldn't let us listen. Eh? He wouldn't even let us come close to it.
Was it a bad thing?
Huh?
Was it a bad thing, the music?
Because
The
it was, if you broke that, you push it over, you broke it, God knows when you're going to get the next one. Eh?
Yeah.
Thomas Bag had one. Thomas Bag, he had one. And few people had radios. Old Archie Dayo had one. Albert Dayo had one at a point. Ernest Dayo. But because they wouldn't let us listen and use it as freely as we want to, we didn't care about it. Eh?
Yeah. And so back to weddings and like marriage, it wasn't marriage. I guess you just pick your wife, talk to the father.
Way before.
Like in Clear Lake.
In
though.
Clear Lake, yeah. People watch how you got married still then, eh? But not for very long. Not for very long. Maybe about 10 years or 12 years after I came out of school. It was still like that. And they never gave their children to just anybody, eh? But some were doing that. And most of those guys, they paid the price for it, eh? Because it wasn't. We weren't married. You might as well call it. I don't call it marriage like me and Grandma. I don't call it because we never loved one another. Never did. We never went out together. It was just married.
just
And
put
that's it.
together
Yeah.
by your parents?
No, yeah, some were done by parents, like nuts and snus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it was, eh? So now they did break up and because of that, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of them were like that.
So even when the church was there and stuff, they never did marriage like that?
They did marriages, yeah.
Yeah.
But after the marriages, they had a little dance, eh?
What kind
Just
of
the
dance?
special people, eh? Square dance, eh? Yeah. Just the family and till later on it got to be rowdy parties, eh?
When the alcohol started coming in?
Yeah. So there was no use going to it anymore, eh? There's all this fights all the time, eh? And they made their own brew, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Their own brew out of raisins and whatever, eh?
So the government didn't bother Clear Lake till it became Turner Lake?
Huh?
The government?
What?
It didn't bother Clear Lake until it became a reserve of Turner Lake?
They never bothered. It was like saying, "Oh, kill it. Let them kill themselves off."
Mm.
Some sort of stuff like that, eh?
Yeah.
And they never. The only time they came around was Treaty Day. Gives the $5, and whoever died, died. Eh?
And there was no government in Clear Lake, like chief and council and stuff like that in Clear Lake?
There was chief and council, but they had nothing. That's all they had, chief and council. Period.
Now what did they do? What was their roles?
Their role was just to keep the community intact, and if they had problems with their families, they were used for that too.
Like guidance?
Yeah, and they used to get some stuff from the government, like for gardening.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have plow, a horse, harnesses, harrow, stuff for the garden, break the ground, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a couple of cows.
So did they run the garden?
They never ran the garden. The people, they help one another make their own garden. Because that belonged to the people, the horses and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was for the use of the people for food, eh? So they didn't play with it. We just go from one garden to the other and help one another pick rocks and everything, eh? And they had a root cellar in their own home.
Mm-hmm.
When you build a house, you dig a hole in the center, eh? About 8 feet high, eh? That's where they store their potatoes, carrots, and stuff like that, eh?
Like a fridge.
Yeah, no fridge, no nothing.
And say today there's a social class ladder.
Hmm?
There's a social class ladder, like your status, I guess. Like there's the higher paid, the rich people. Then there's the lower paid, the middle class. Was there such a thing like that? Like?
I seen it growing. Like I said, Alec Campbell was the chief, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Dion's husband was a Métis
The guy with the radios.
guy with radio. But he lived on reserve with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And they were way better off than we were. And over at the point there was the Dions. Oh, those ones were hard-working people, and they didn't play with anything, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And they were more well off than the ones in Clear Lake across the lake. And the ones that were, like I said, Oscar Petit, the Petit family,
Mm-hmm.
they were in a channel over there. They were well off, and there was, like you said, sonorities. This one up, Pat Desjardins was another one. His family was up there, and as you went down the ladder like that. Same concept as the white man today.
Mm-hmm. But there was no thing as owning property and stuff like that.
Hmm?
Like property owning. It
No.
was all just shared land.
Yeah. Everything was shared.
So there was no special ceremonies there, just for the wedding, the little
Just
dance.
for the wedding, little dance, that was it, yeah.
And that was the only kind of ceremonies they had out there.
That's all I remember.
And then education came in, and that's when they started taking kids from Clear Lake.
Then they built a school in Clear Lake. That's when education came in.
They built a school in Clear Lake?
Yeah, a little school, yeah. A little school.
Like the one in Bear Creek about?
Oh, yeah, something like that, yeah. Yeah. That was the first school, eh? But the first school they had, it was in a warehouse down by the Hudson Bay Company there.
And who would go to that school?
Huh?
Who would go to that
Hey,
school?
your grandma went there for a while.
Like, how old did you have to be to go to school?
It didn't matter as long as you got kids in there. As long as you got kids that weren't 30 years old.
This was before the residential school. They had that school,
No. They had no school during the residential school. Nothing. There was no school in Clear Lake till way back in the 60s.
So they had a store, they had a church,
Yeah.
and they had a school.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else was just labor work. And it wasn't even for money, it was just for food and groceries and stuff.
Just for survival, yeah.
So if you were a chief, it didn't mean nothing.
Huh?
If you were a chief, it didn't mean nothing.
The value of being a chief.
And then they come to Turner Lake. And then when did that start to happen? Where the chief...
Well, Turner Lake, I can recall that. Who built Turner Lake?
Mm-hmm.
Now, lots of people are being told lies, okay? I came here in 1959. But there's all people from the lost. Most of them have passed away. And they have great respect for me, for what I was, who I was.
Mm-hmm.
When I came here, we lived in a little shack down the lake where Blackie was. You'll see a bunch of birch growing. That's where we stayed in. I had a garden. Hunting was easy. More you went to the nearest passing areas and you got your moose and stuff like that. So I was well established before they came here. My fishing was down the lake between the island here. All I needed was 2 nets, that's all. Fish every day when it froze, and just threw my frozen fish in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the snowboat would pick it up and come Christmas time, before Christmas, take it back to Buffalo. When they came here, they were living in tents over there. This was all bush, just around the church there.
Were you the first one, like not the first one here, but one of the first here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, there was other people too, like I said, Andre Munkra, Jonas Munkra, and Zubak, and Ultra. There's only about 9, 10 little houses. And old Toby. And when they came here, they lived around the church. They probably could have lived somewhere else, but they probably figured, religion, the God will save us or something like that to do around the church. They used to get a kick out of them, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they came here and they lived there winter time in a tent. And it was hard.
A canvas tent?
Huh?
A
Canvas,
tent?
yeah. It was hard on the kids, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And me, I just didn't worry about that. But one day in 1969, they come to the house over there. And so this was in 66, I think. Yeah, 66. Come to the house, and come in and gave him some tea, and there was Or is Eugene, Old Chum, Lambert, Biscar, and I asked him, I said, where'd you guys come for? Well, he said, we moved from Clear Lake. We're living in tent over there and it's hard, he said. Kids and everything. Hardly any food. We were talking about it, he said. We were wondering if you could give us a hand, he said. You're more knowledgeable about what goes on. We're wondering if you give us a hand. The chief was in Dillon that time, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And the council was a dummy here, eh? Old chum. They didn't know. Supposed to be the one that's supposed to work for the betterment, eh? He didn't have a clue why he was on council for. So anyway, I asked him, I said, what do you want? Well, he said, we want to pick up our lives and we want to live in a house before next winter and get us some stuff like nets and stuff like that so we can fish for our family. So Grandma told me, she said, don't worry. Took me on and said, don't leave me alone. We'll never even thank you for that, he said. I should have listened to her then. But I felt sorry for them. So I said, when you come back, give me time to think about it. I wrote down on paper. I wrote down in there, each family get 10 nets, 1 outboard motor, skidoo, nets, traps, and from them to set up a business, open up an account at a credit union Middle Lake. And in the summertime when they fish, the guy Wait, I knew him pretty good, we were good friends. He takes 25% out of their paycheck and they put it in the bank account. That's their money, the fishermen. So they build themselves up like that. I wrote that up. Then the traps, well, each family, according to size, you get this amount of traps. And they got traps. Like Biscar got about 250 traps. Eugene, all those guys. And then the skidoos were coming out. So I got 3 skidoos. Gave one to Sam Young, Old Chum, and Eugene. So, and then the houses. We got 10 houses. I applied for 10 houses. Not big houses, but it's better than living in a tent for the time being, yeah? Till we get on our feet. So, I wrote that all down. And then I talked about a tourist camp, tourist resort. Put it all on paper, what is needed, and how it would work. Then I talked about separating from Dillon, separate band. So, went to see the chief. It was all fly all the time, eh? So we had negotiations with the chief in Dillon, and it was, yeah, go for it. So I left here, got to Middle Lake, and when I got to the Empire Hotel, the Indian Affairs used to be in the town hall over there across the street. So I got there, I had no money. And I asked the guy, Bert Snyder was his name. You knew him pretty good, so. I said, I got no money. I said, I don't know where to sleep. I said, I came here for business. I told him about it. Oh, he said, you can pick a room up there. He gave me a room. Next morning, he gave me a meal. And I took that piece of paper and I walked across. I walked in there and the superintendent knew who I was. So, well, what brings you up in this country, Paul? He told me. Well, I said, I came to speak to you on a major problem. I said, oh, I see. What is it? So I said, you know that you're aware that Turner Lake, the people come from Clear Lake and they're living in tents over there? I said, yeah. Well, they came to see me and they talking to me about it. And I had a meeting with them and I told them what I would do for them and fill them in on the details, how it would work. Oh, he said, you got anything? I said, yeah, here's paper. So he looked at it and, oh, shit, he said, I got to call my workers, he said. I got to have a meeting with them on this, he said. So I told him, I said, I got a room at a hotel there now. I got no money. I said, well, he said, Paul, don't worry about it. He said, I'll send somebody over there for your rooms and your meals, he said, and you can stay as long as you want. He said. Because they knew me, I was already well established, So I went back across and I spent another night there. Next day, somebody came and got me. I went back over there. So the superintendent, his name was Ken Curry, he said, Paul, he said, that's pretty smart, he said. This is the first time of all the way places I've traveled, he said, that a guy brought in this kind of a brief, he said. He said, I want to take this to Regina, he said. If Regina don't approve this, we'll send it to Ottawa, he said. And I don't think they'll reject you, he said. So I said, okay. And you, he said, what are you going to do? Are you going to go home? Oh, I guess I got to start walking, I said. Came here walking, I got to go back walking. Oh, no, he said, that's not the way things work, he said. You're a special person, he said. You're one of the VIPs, he said. So he said, tomorrow, he said, somebody will take you to the airport, he said, and you'll fly home. So I went back across and I was eating supper. A guy come. I remember the guy's name, John Grismer, come across. He sat down. He gave me an envelope, Give me an envelope. That's for you, he said. Yeah. What's that? Oh, he said, that's your expenses. I never done nothing. So I opened it, Here he had $600 and some in there, cash. I felt kind of guilty. Oh, he said, don't worry, he said, spend it, he said, whichever way you want, he said. It's all yours, he said. You earned it, he said. I went to the store to go up the next day and bought groceries, an airplane load. And he come and picked me up and took me airport. I landed down the lake there. And he told me, he said, if we hear word from Regina, he said, we'll come pick you up, or otherwise. And by this time I had a friend there. His name was Noel Pinet. He was a Cree Indian from down south. He had an office here in Buffalo. He used to use me for interpretation.
Mhm.
So anyway, I come back, brought a big load. Pulled everything back to the house. When the people heard I was back, he came and he asked me, "Oh, what happened?" Oh, I said, "Paper is gone." Did you get a word? He said, "They're going to come pick me up next week." Sure enough, next week, an airplane landed, went back to Meadow Lake. Now I was living like a king now. I didn't have to work now. So, anyway, I got back to Meadow Lake. Everything was paid for, arranged and everything. By next morning, I went to the office. And superintendent told me, he said, "You know, your paper made it as far as Regina." I said, "Everything's approved. Everything."
Mhm.
I felt good, eh? So I went. He said, "They'll start hauling. Start seeing transport trucks coming into around a curve," he said. "And then that means you're getting your supplies. But them houses are not going to be big," he said. "Oh," I said, "that's what we want." I said, "Some place where you can live out of the wind and at least it's get away from storm." Eh? I came back and people came and I told them, I said, what was what? All those things I wrote on the paper, I said, Regina approved it. Just like that. But they were happy. Happier than hell. But then in January, boy, big semi come around the corner. Come to my house. He had a crate, guys shovel the snow. He come there and he unload all the lumber, boy. Doors, windows, boy, that pile was bigger than my house. So, but nobody stole any. People never used to steal.
Mhm.
And we stayed out there, and then we started talking about who's going to build. So Jonas was taking training for carpentry in Meadow Lake. They gave him the contract to build them 10 houses. And later on, by outboard motors, nets, paint, everything. Another truck come. I gave them all out. John Campbell, 10 nets, and Barbara Lambert, Eugene, Biscar, Orcham, Sam Young. There's 10 of them. They all got the same amount. And I told them, remember, you got 25%. I'm taking a paper to wage company, and they're going to deduct the 25%, and it's going to go to the bank. I arranged all that. So, oh, were they ever happy. And then later on, we started a tourist camp over there where Cloud Bouchard is, just past that.
Mhm.
You still see them blocks in the bush there?
I don't know where.
Just past where that big hole is. You go down
On
to
the highway?
No, off the main highway. You go down the tower there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you walk. You'll walk in a bush there. You'll see blocks of
Yeah.
cement. That's where
Mhm.
this tourist resort is going to be built. Eh? He started that. So he built 4 cabins. He started construction on 4 cabins, and I had a guy working from Buffalo, an older man, Ray Bullock. He was a mink rancher. I had people work. They started work over there. And then they built a store over there where Norman's got his house. A store and a garage. Store and a garage. And a gas pump. And he brought boats. Speedboats, outboard motors, fish hooks, paddles, lifesavers, groceries, you name it. We just talked it full. Everybody was happy. And these guys were happy too when they went fishing, you know. So after that, I kept negotiating with Dylan to break away. But in the meantime, I got a contract. I had to build 15 houses in La Loche. So I went to La Loche and I got a contract for 15 houses. Started working over there. And Jonas had a contract here for 10. Everything was going well. And then a couple of years went like that. That bank at a credit union, in one summer, they had accumulated $6,000 in the account, fisherman's account, and they were the board directors. So Indian Affairs saw that. They gave us another 14,000 for nothing, for the account. So they had $20,000. I told them, I said, see what you do when you produce? See what happens? Now, I said, this money, I said, you keep doing that for 30 years from now, I said, you don't even have to bother going to Indian Affairs for money, I said. That's your bank, that's your money. You don't even have to beg for money. So, then after that, Raphael came here from Clear Lake. He was one of the last guys to move here. Raphael was a very crooked, very, very crooked man. So the store, Jean Campbell was keeping the store. Norman was keeping the store at first. And then they said Norman drinks too much. So they changed him. Jean Campbell took over. Jean Campbell was just as worse. And every time he'd go somewhere, he'd put Raphael in the store there. And Raphael would dig his hand in the cash box. When he started disappearing. The guy I hired from Buffalo was looking after all these things. He told me, he said, there's money missing from the store. So I called a meeting and called him in. And I told him straight in the face, this is what's happened. Jean Campbell, you're gone. Raphael, you'll either have to repay that back or else. Why you got mad at me? The whole works of them got mad at me who's doing that.
Really?
Yeah, he got mad. So, then things started walking away. One little canoe left. Fish hook started walking that way. Paddle started getting legs, started walking. Alexander Lake Corporation, the camp, before they even set up, there's broke. So anyway, finally we broke away from Dylan. We got a paper and a letter in the mail, November 16, 1972, that we're a separate band now. Now we got to have a chief and council. So, by election came, the nomination came, I went over there to listen. Boy, not one guy came up with my name. Not one. He said, this guy is a smart man. He's the smartest man in Turner Lake. We're going to vote him for chief. I just felt bad.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, let it be.
Yeah.
So, 2 years he was the chief. Xander Lake Corporation went broke. All that money that was in the bank went broke. There's a lot of equipment at the back of the store there. It's all gone. They couldn't even have enough money to fill up another gas tank. It went broke. So then the election came up 2 years.
It used to only be 2 years.
Huh?
It used to only be 2 years.
It used to be 2 years, yeah. Well, election came up and I figured I'd give it a chance. Went out there. Another dummy they put in there. Lambert Sylvester. And the two councillors that they voted was Gus and Catherine Young. And they were both going out with each other, those two.
Catherine Young?
Catherine Sylvester.
Oh.
Yeah. Holy shit, I said, what the hell is this world coming to? And they overruled, they overpowered the chief all the time, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So, Gus, at one meeting, he said, the reason why Turner Lake went broke because it's in the community. I told him that's not the reason. I said, because you're all crooked, I said.
Mm-hmm.
You're the guys that made it go broke, I said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't tell the truth, I said. You don't know fuck all, he told me. Well, I think I know a little more than you, I said.
Mm-hmm.
But you're afraid to admit it, I said. So anyway, they moved their camp to Xander Lake. That's where they're going to make their money, they said.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they'll never make money there. Who are you going to get from the state to go to Xander Lake just for
The
one
tourists.
day? Yeah.
The tourist camp that you were trying to build over there, and moved it to Xander Lake.
Just go around the lake in 10 minutes and who's going to stay there? I said.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never make money. But no, it was their way. Catherine Young, Catherine Sylvester and him were lovers, and that's the way they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And Norman Sylvester, your uncle, seen that happening. Norman Paul Mungran seen it happen. They spoke out, when they were working over there,
Mm-hmm.
and they got canned for it. That was that kind of people, So, and from there, since that day on, the Turner Lake has never came up. Never in God's world. Because Lambert was being screwed left and right from that manager. He had come from down south by the name of Tom Gilmore. When he came to Buffalo, that guy didn't even have a piss pot to piss in when he came there. So when he got hired, the band hired him, and he had living in Buffalo. He set up his own company under Gilmore, what the hell was it? Gilmore Outfitting Corporation. So he had his own title. And what he used to do was he used to order stuff on behalf of Xander Lake. He'd send all the used equipment to Xander Lake and he'd keep the brand new ones, like the fridges, and he'd sell them down south. Lambert didn't even have a clue what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So within 2 years, it went broke. Ever since that day, that never come up once ever. And then they started blaming one another. Then Lil Louis popped up. Okay, another bandit. So he started, the school was set up right then, and he elected him for a board. And one day they had a meeting. They had a meeting, and I went over there to listen. This time I went there. I just go there to listen, because I knew nothing would work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And he said, well, we're going to hire a Denny teacher to teach our children the Denny language in the classroom. Everybody, they said, Louis is a good man, New York City said, okay, that's good. And said, anybody got something to speak, to talk about? I said, yeah, I do. I said, that Denny language you're talking about, I said, the superintendent, Tony Kostiak, the guy that sells potatoes and stuff like that in the loss, that's the guy. I said, the only interest you have, I said, is to create one job position, I said. So how many communities you got in the north, I said? Cree and Denny. So if you create 30 jobs all around the north, permanent jobs, the government will look at it like you're doing something, but you're doing big damage, I said. And he said, give me 2 good reasons why it's no good. Well, I said, first of all, I said, I'm a parent. That guy up there, I said, he gave me a language to talk. He gave me that, I said. That's the gift he gave me to talk my language. And it's my responsibility to pass it on to my children. Now, you're telling me I'm going to take that language away from you and give it to this woman to teach my children? I said, you think that's going to work? I said, no, not going to work. The reason why it's not going to work, I'll tell you. I said, this Marie Marcelin, I said, I have faith in her, I said. He knows the Denny language. But Marie's not going to live forever, I said. Marie Marcelin was Raphael's wife, She's not going to live forever, I said. She's going to be gone, I said. And then the next one that takes over, I'm going to be less. And as time goes by, it's going to be less and less and less and less and less. Pretty soon be forgotten. That's what's going to happen. But not one guy from this community ever spoke out on it. They just let it happen. That's the kind of dumb community that ever was. So from that day when I walked out of there, I said to myself, I will never, ever, ever try anything for this place. I mind my own business. And I'm good at that, minding my own business. Because I can survive without them. But after that, I tried. I was a chief of another term later on. I really didn't want it to. But they had no other choice and no other guy to pick in. So there too, they were begging me to do the same thing I was trying to do. I said, not all of it. I said, Xander Lake is out of question. Nobody will ever pump money into Xander Lake anymore because Everything is modern day and big camps out there now, competitions, heavy. There's a little spot on that little lake, you won't even bother. So not gonna bother. And then Bimbo comes in. You should give us some fish, some nets. I wanna go fishing. Just like that, eh? And everybody, a good idea, eh? Okay. Okay, I should I'll do that. Give him the same thing, eh? This car got 20 nets, 2 motors, skidoos, everything. Well, Bimbo, he sold that skidoo to Louis Moore and a brand new 12 horse to his brother-in-law for $300. And he drank it up. And he sold all his nets to Louis. He all sold everything to John Hanson and everything. And then after my 3rd year, when I saw things weren't working out, I was supposed to sit for 4 years. After the 3rd year, I went to the band office, put my signature down, I quit, no more. You guys can do whatever you want. Never went back after.
And it's been theirs.
I even tried a 2nd term when I was chief. That Woods Lumber, that hardware store in Buffalo, Woods Lumber was going to sell out. I put a proposal together and I went to the Meadow Lake District chiefs and presented that to them, and the people here rejected it.
They didn't care about building economics.
Yeah.
for a time,
Then Norcan Air, that brown building just by the across from the bingo radio station, was selling out. So I knew Dennis O'Brien and we sat down and talked about it. I said I'll get a proposal together and we'll buy you out. These guys here turned me down.
Behind it.
And then that Eugene Lalonde started that store, that dollar store in Buffalo, across from that cafe.
Yeah.
One day he called me, he said, Paul, he said, you know, you're the only smartest man in Turner Lake, he said. And I'm moving out of Buffalo, he said. And the Hudson Bay wants to buy me out, he said. But I'll give you guys a chance, he said. And I want to sell it for this much. If you can get the money, he said, you can train your people, training dollars. And you guys in business. So I wrote down a proposal, everything. These assholes here, they turned me down again. Just to make it miserable, eh? So if you figure I didn't try, I tried.
So now today we have nothing.
Nothing.
We have that little print place.
Got fuck all. That's all. So when I saw all these things, you know, holy shit, in the crazy.
All these guys, did they go to school?
No.
Were you the only one that went to school?
Huh?
Were you the only one that went to school?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, would you say that place benefited you?
Huh?
Would you say the residential schools benefited you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I utilized my education. When I went to school, I was already smart. When I went to residential school, I saw things were happening. All negative, mostly negative stuff. But I didn't drag myself in there. I stopped and
You made the
I
best
said
of
to
it.
myself, these will be here, but I have to do something for myself. And I worked in school. When I came out, I stayed there 9 years in school. I came out at 14 years old, grade 9.
Mm-hmm. And you could write all these things up
Yeah.
and everything else like that.
Yeah. Letter writing and everything. I took advantage of it. Then later on in the 70s, I went back to Middle Lake for grade 12.
At the, was there a Northlands College there? Northwest?
There was no Northlands College.
What kind of college did you go to?
It was just a classroom. There was no colleges.
Nothing?
Nothing. There was just an upgrading class in the basement of Martin Grant School. All
And
it
that's
was.
how you graduated grade 12?
Upgrading, that's all. Yeah. And I was living on $175 a month.
Wow.
I had to feed my family on that.
Are you the oldest of your brothers and sisters?
Running.
And then you?
Huh?
And
Yeah.
then you? So what were Christmases like in Clear Lake?
Where?
Clear Lake Christmas?
There was no such thing as Christmas celebration.
No? Well, it's
No.
because there was no God, eh? Like,
Nothing at all. Just one after later in the years toward the tail end of it, there was a Santa Claus. For about 2 years, that school is there.
mm-hmm.
And after people moved out in. That's the only Santa Claus I've seen in Clear Lake. Before that, nothing. Just another ordinary day.
In residential school, did you have a Santa Claus?
Oh, the residential school, yeah. We made our own presents.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like what kind?
In the
what
shop.
Kind? Tell me a story about one.
Okay, a little truck.
Mm-hmm.
A carver truck, With a little knife, little fishes, and you paint it with the scales and everything, paint it. Little birds,
Mm-hmm.
all out of wood, We used to make those kind of things and send it to our friends,
So you have good memories of residential school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I took advantage of the positive things.
Mm-hmm.
The negative stuff, well, didn't drag myself in there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was in it, but
You
it
dwell on it?
it never bothered me,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I go crazy.
And they had teachers,
Oh, the teachers were
nuns?
nuns, but they were good. If you could only stop and listen,
So if you sat there and you listened, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
But if you were to mess around, then you'd be punished.
Yeah.
Like Ernest.
Yeah. That's the way it was. I remember lots of kids that were rank,
Mm-hmm.
They paid the price,
And you just stayed there the whole time since they took you?
No, I came home for holidays. At the end of June, I went back then.
Just for summertime?
Just for summertime. So I never came back for Christmas. And all the food was shitty, But what else can you eat,
What kind of food did you eat?
Garden stuff. Fish that was rank.
Pork.
Pork. But never the best part of a pig,
Did they get the better part of it?
Oh yeah. And beef the same thing. Turkey was the same thing. Chicken. Old farm stuff. Potatoes. Whatever, corn. And once in a while, like Christmas,
Mhm.
oh, you'll see an apple, eh? Oh, that is gold. Apples, gold, orange. And then we gather up all the kids in the boys' room,
Mhm.
and we'd have bag candies and peanuts, eh?
Mhm.
It's true like that, eh? And everybody's trying to collect the most, eh?
Like a breaking of a piñata.
Huh?
Like breaking a piñata.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you played sports?
Oh yeah, a lot of sports. You had to do something, eh? I played a lot of sports. I played hockey, ball, skiing and sliding and trapping over there.
Mhm.
Yeah, trapping too, eh? And whatever sports came around, I got myself involved in it. Eh?
Did they have like competitions like?
Yeah,
Like
we used to
different
go
schools?
to the village, eh?
Mhm.
Across the river. Transportation wasn't that great in those days, eh? And once in a while we'd be lucky we went all across. And Buffalo Narrows. Up Buffalo Narrows is open ice on the little bay there where the northern store is, eh?
Where was your residential school in Bobel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'd go to Middle League too, play hockey. We used to stay in an old church when we went to Middle League. Hey, what a time. There's always fighting, eh? The Cree people and the Denny people. All the time fighting.
Even when you guys became a town
Where?
here in Turner
Yeah.
in the Cree, the
Yeah.
Hamlet side.
Yeah. All the time. Never quit. So I stayed away from it here, eh?
Mhm.
I was always out there. Whatever they done here, let them be, eh?
Will you send letters to your parents from
Huh?
residential school? You send letters?
No, you couldn't afford a postage stamp.
You needed stamps back then too?
Yeah. Couldn't pay for it. Even though it was only 2 cents. How can you earn money when you're in residential school, eh?
Mhm.
There was no such thing as money.
So you never tried to run away?
Seen people run away, they only got caught, eh?
Do you remember when they come and got you? How was it when they come and got you? Like, what did they just come and gave your mom and dad a letter and said,
No letter, no nothing. No formal letter. People were fishing in Outer Island. You know when you go to Clear Lake, that little narrow place, and there's a little island here?
mhm,
You go through the Clear Lake, that channel. On this side, there used to be a beach all the way there.
mhm,
And the fish boat used to be parked there. And the Hudson Bay Company had a store on the little island in a tent.
mhm.
Okay. And that's where I seen my first picture show. And this guy here, he come with the preacher from Buffalo. And he said there's going to be a show tonight. But there were no kids allowed, just adults. And a quarter. I didn't have a quarter, so. And what we done is we sneak, eh?
Mhm.
Whatever we can squeeze in between, as long as they get caught, eh? Like this, eh? Picture show, eh?
Somebody would stand there
Yeah,
and do that?
yeah. That's my first picture show. So we're playing there on the beach. On the beach, there's me and the two Toback sisters, Cecil and Therese, Chabby's wife. and my sister, and Mary Louise, Little Louise's wife, and Bimbo, Frank Campbell. There's quite a few, okay. And I guess there was talk already somewhere going on somewhere, and till later on I heard the details about it, but that is way later, not then. So this old Joe back here used to be a priest man, that guy. Oh, he believed in religion so bad, you know. And all of a sudden, boy, they loaded us up in a canoe. The 8 horse hooked up on it. Loaded up, and they took us to Buffalo.
In the morning or is dark?
And I always say about somewhere, sometime in the morning. Loaded us up in a canoe, took us to Buffalo. It's like that. We don't know where the hell we're going. We got to Buffalo Narrows, here was a big barge waiting for us, eh? There's no canopy over the roof or anything, it's just open, eh? Big barge. Something like the one you've seen in the rapids there. Yeah. And we waited there, then there were some people coming from Dillon, bringing their children, loading it up, load up, and we left. God knows where in the hell we're going.
Your mom and dad didn't tell you nothing?
Well,
They had no
you
choice?
can't speak against the church. You were condemned.
So you just had no choice?
You had no choice. And Joe Back was a real black saint. Oh, that guy would pray 20 times a day.
Did you pray before you went there?
Huh?
Did you pray before you went there?
Well, I had to follow suit, eh?
But I mean, did your family believe in...
Oh, they went to church, but I was lazy prayer, eh? I fell asleep all the time. Boring, eh? I guess if my parents had a choice, I don't think they'd go to church. But everybody in the community, if they didn't see you in church, holy crap, they get after you. And why didn't you go to church? You know?
Yeah.
You're lazy. You know, all kind of negative stuff they tell you. When I came out of school, I used to tell them, fuck you. I was brave then, eh?
Yeah.
You do what you have to do, I'll do what I have to do.
So today, would you say that you're a Catholic?
No, I'm not.
Are you a religious man at all?
I'm not a Catholic. I don't believe in their bullshit, their stories. The only way I look at it is my Indian value, that's all.
They're like a creator.
And I'll get judged for that. All I know is there's a creator. I believe there's a creator when I see all these things around me. Trees, earth, water, sky. That's
And
it.
Grandma didn't go to residential school, eh?
Oh, your grandma used to pray like hell, eh? Still does, eh?
But she didn't go to residential school?
No. Lots of times I tell her, I go to pray, I go to church, I go to pray in my own way, eh? And of course, say a few Hail Marys go along with it. Just a few, maybe 5. And her was praying one whole rosary, eh? Every night. So I told him, I said, Mom, I said, somehow it doesn't make sense to me, I said. You say one whole rosary every night, and I only say 5 Hail Marys. My way of thinking is priest told me one time, I said, a friend of mine, if you say 5 Hail Marys, he said, out of that 5 Hail Marys, if 2 of them are good, you pray with your heart, he said, or 1, he said, that's all you need, he said. But you, I said, you say 50 of them every night, I said. And for a whole month, 50 times 30, I said, that's 1,500 Hail Marys, I said. And every time you're upset about something, what is the first word you come up with, I said? Fuck.
Yeah.
You've been at it for, ever since I remember, I said, you know, let it go, I said. So what the hell is the use to say 1,500 Hail Marys if you're not going to change? But he still wouldn't believe me.
Yeah.
And I said, these pictures too, I said. What the hell that guy doing up there, I said. I don't see you having my picture up there, I said. Did you ever see my picture?
No.
Yeah, I said, I'm your husband, I said. Look at this asshole, I said. What the hell is he doing up there? And he gets mad about it, eh? Everything that his Father Matthew said that.
Would you think she would think differently if she went to residential school?
Huh?
Would you think that she would think differently if she went to residential school?
They'd probably brainwash me, yeah. Because I noticed they brainwash a few older people than me, eh? Yeah. But you know, today when I look at life, for me, like the way your grandma is right now, I'd have to be very harsh and tell the truth about it. I don't care. Because you can love somebody so much, but if he don't listen to you, why would you love him? And you don't listen nothing at all. Don't listen at all. I changed from what I used to be yesterday. I'm a lot different person. But before I left here, I wasn't planning on going to La Loche for a week. That wasn't my plan. He kept bugging me all day long. He wants to go to La Loche for the week. I said, no. I said, I don't want to go and I got no money. And I don't want to go and take my overdraft just to spill gas in a vehicle and go to Lourdes for the week. I said, it's not worth it. And he keeps telling me at a stem, so you got to worry about your soul. Why should you worry about I'll worry about my soul, you worry about yours. I told her, I said, but I can't. Finally, I said, okay, take her. The only way she'll shut up, eh? So we got to La Loche. It turned out to be a big major problem. Just a little thing like that, it turned out to be one major problem. Now when she gets back here, who's going to take care of her? I can guarantee you nobody's going to take care of her. Not me.
Too, yeah.
And not me for sure. I'm not going to sit around here and wheel her all over the place. No way. She didn't listen, she paid a price. Because I wouldn't want to be in that situation. If somebody tells me something, I'll stop and I'll listen. That's the way I was with my dad. My dad, even though he was harsh, he'd sit to me, he'd sit and tell me, and he'd tell me, think about it. And I would think about it. And if he's right, I wouldn't bother. That's the way. Even though they were a poor family, eh?
Mhm.
Because I remember we're two different people, me and your grandma. Grandma was born a spoiled brat, okay?
Mhm.
I had everything for her. She didn't have to work hard to get for anything. Me, I had to work for everything. So even when we were in the bush, my dad used to always go away from where the major camp used to be, the fish camp. Someplace, Tliskale, hunting, dry meats, all that stuff. And all we did was bring my fishing and go right back. That's it. And all the excitement here, card games and flirting and everything going on here,
Mhm.
And whenever we came to the camp, he'd never jump in the middle. He'd stay on the side,
Mhm.
out of there, away.
Just doing his own
Yeah.
thing.
So I always wondered why he used to do that. When I grew up, I understood why he was doing that.
Mhm.
He was teaching us to stay away from all that negative
Mhm.
things happening. He wasn't dumb.
So different, eh?
Yeah. So I told her that in the hospital, She got mad at me for it.
Mhm.
I told her, I said, if you had to listen to me, I said, just stop and listen. We wouldn't be sitting here,
Mhm.
not worried about where you're gonna get the next money from, or you're gonna get the next meal. But for her, no, yeah. Okay. So I just went and did, that's all. That's all I did in Saskatoon. I had to borrow $400 from Vernon.
Mhm. That's life, yeah.
You gotta pay him back tomorrow.
My computer died.